who are we? Who is the New York State EDC? I'm not going to read our entire mission statement, but we promote economic development across New York State and our local communities. We see that here in Genesee County and around the state with businesses, careers, and increased prosperity. What do? We do advocacy, education, policy development, and networking, and more importantly is why do we do this? And our advocacy creates a greater ability for our communities and businesses and future workforce to succeed all across New York State. Our advocacy successes in the short tenure that I've been here have really been pretty positive. We've limited new restrictive economic development regulations. We've actually helped secure $175 million in dedicated workforce development funds. We worked with our community colleges all across New York State to create a new funding formula that would allow community colleges to be more competitive, more effective over the long term, and that certainly is happening here in Genesee County. We increased funding for the Centers for Advanced Technology and COEs, and we testified at several Assembly and Senate committee hearings over the past couple of years. Really, our focus is on local communities, giving them the tools and the power to set their priorities, whether it be workforce, education, research, and development. And I would also want to quickly recognize Michael Cracker from Unshackled Upstate. He's one of our tremendous partners in advocacy all across New York State, certainly representing all of you well here in upstate New York as well. Expansion and growth, we've been fortunate over the last 3 years to see a tremendous amount of growth within our organization. What does that really mean? It creates natural partnerships, a forum for us to bring together entities to share their best practices and really break down those silos that prevent economic development efforts and initiatives from moving forward. The policy and think tank, I won't go into too much detail about that because I'll be talking a little bit about some of that towards the end of my presentation, but I do want to emphasize that we did a semiconductor analysis study in partnership with National Grid, Empire State Development. We actually worked with Newmark, and we looked at our competitiveness with large-scale shovel-ready sites, and it really did show and help us understand where we are, not only competing against other parts of the state, but other parts of the country. I can also not confirm or deny that look on my face if I was being questioned by either the assemblyman or the senator, but it's always an adventure and always a good time representing the economic development community in Albany. Networking and professional development, we went from doing 3 events a year in 2017 to 11 events in 2020. I'm very proud to announce that we launched our IDA, Industrial Development Training Academy, here in Batavia last September. Because of that, it is now going to be a quarterly program that the EDC offers year after year. And really our focus is on best practices, case studies, and how do we create a more skilled economic development workforce. And so that leads us to generating growth in Genesee County. About 3 years ago, Steve and I had a conversation. He said, you know, we're really looking at taking a step back and understanding the work we're doing here in Genesee County. We need an outside set of eyes to take a look at the investments, the partnerships, the strategies that we've done. And we said, you know, why don't we look at the Rockefeller Institute of Government, a tremendous resource and an asset here in New York State, independent, objective, going to tell you what you're doing good, where are there some opportunities for improvement. And I think it's important, and it shows the real leadership you have here with Steve and the entire team in Genesee County to take a step back and do a SWOT analysis and say, what are we doing well, what could we continue to do, what could we do better moving forward. And so one of the things I do want to just quickly recognize is that the Site Selection magazine named the Batavia area in Genesee County one of the top 3 micropolitan communities for business growth. And this is the 16th straight year that Genesee County has been recognized in some way, shape, or form by this magazine. That's important because people read that in our profession all across the country. Site selectors, businesses pay attention to the work that the Site Selection magazine promotes, and to be on that list year after year after year will only continue to increase the likelihood that more companies will come here and identify this as a great opportunity for growth. So Western New York stamp. There's really no site like this anywhere in New York State. And that was really what the analysis told us, not only from the Rockefeller study, but from the study that we did with Newmark on the semiconductor analysis and site feasibility study. There's actually very few sites like this anywhere in the country. There is a real shortage of shovel-ready sites all across the United States. And this further emphasizes why we need more of these. This is a model that can be utilized not only here in Genesee County, but all across New York State. Manufacturing, what's really important about this is you're exceeding not only New York State, but you're exceeding national averages. 4.8% of the manufacturing employment across New York State and 13.7% of the share of the workforce is in manufacturing here. And it's the next generation of manufacturing. That's the important thing. You're evolving here in this community with your manufacturing attractions. This really does buck the national trend. And what does that translate into? It translates into good paying jobs. These are solid, these are strong salaries that are creating net new wealth in your community. That net new wealth gets invested back into your local community. Steve mentioned housing. Housing is a vital part of economic development. Restaurants, retail, recreation, those dollars are going right back into your local economy. Strength in agriculture, I don't need to really pitch anybody here on the strength of the agricultural economy. It's been a backbone for generations here. The work that Oatka Milk, Hood, Yancey's Fancy, there's a ton of production and a ton of opportunity for continued growth in the agricultural sector here in Genesee County. So shovel-ready site development in Genesee County, 8 shovel-ready sites across all of the county, 37 businesses, 1,150 jobs, $809 million in annual economic output. That's fantastic. Those numbers are staggering, but we need more. Shovel-ready programs was something that, because of the work you're doing out here, we actually went to the state and said, here's a program you could invest in, and we will continue to advocate for a shovel-ready, market-ready program and dedicated dollars in the state budget that will allow us to not only do more shovel-ready here in Genesee County, but all across New York State. And the important thing that I think Rockefeller pointed out in their study was when these sites are fully developed, that $809 million will actually double to $1.6 billion in economic output from the shovel-ready investments that you've made over the long period of time with the Genesee County EDC. Apple Tree Acres Corporate Park, you drive by, you see Liberty Pumps. You really have created a regional distribution hub over the last 2 decades. Your partners at GRE actually say it best. These are real results that you're seeing. There's opportunity for future growth there, but as Steve said, it's almost full. There's tremendous need to continue investing in shovel-ready here in Genesee County. And the important part of the study really is know your competition. So take a step back, see what else is happening around New York State, see what's happening around the country, and evaluate, are we doing the right things? Are there things that we can be doing better? So keep yourself growing, keep evolving the strategy over time. The important thing that I think GCEDC is going to do is not take this study from Rig and put it on the shelf and let it collect dust. They're going to learn from it and they're going to implement it, and that's the important work that I think economic developers do, and certainly that's being done here. So in comparison to some of the other places around the country, we're competing quite well here in this part of the state. And it's important to remember that economic development is not a linear process. There's no start point, there's no beginning, there's no end. It's ongoing and it's evolutionary. So the more you can do to continue growing and investing, the more you're going to see positive economic growth and really a higher quality of life in your community in here in New York State. So moving forward, you're already doing it, but continue to do it. Work together. Collaborate. As the Assemblyman said, population decline is a real challenge. It's a real concern for us. Keep attracting new residents. Build livable, workable communities. You need to recapture those college grads who moved away. Let them know about the career opportunities. Let them know about the high quality of life that exists here. Expand your strengths. The important thing is that you know what your strengths are. You're not out there searching to find what are we good at. You're good at agricultural, you're good at manufacturing, you're good at distribution. Continue to invest in those things that will continue to build an economic cluster and an engine here in the region. Training the next generation of workforce, the STEM to Stamp initiative and countless other programs that Steve referenced are things that are going to allow for companies all across the country to say they have the talent pipeline that we need. When we talk to site selectors, cost of doing business, of course, is one of the first things that they look at. We have incentive programs, and we want to continue to have incentive programs that will allow us to offset the cost of doing business. But the next thing they talk about after cost is the quality of the workforce, the talent. What's the short-term plan? Do they have enough workers to be up and operating in 12 months? Do they have enough workers for 18 months? What does the future pipeline look like? So the more you can do partnerships at the elementary school level, the more likely you are to keep those students here because the companies are going to see the need to be here. Celebrate and promote your accomplishments. Be proud of the work that you're doing. Go out and tell your story. Don't be bashful. It's important for those that are naysayers out there to hear the positive things that are happening. In the economic development world, it's always the one project that just doesn't happen to work out that gets all the attention. You need to highlight the 12 to 15 to 17 different things that have gone right while that one project may not have gone the way we had hoped it would, and for various reasons why it may not have gone the way it could have or should have. But economic development is a risk. It's not a sure thing. That's why it requires public, private, academic, and non-for-profit partnerships to make it happen. If it was a simplistic way to do it, everybody would do it the same way, and everybody doesn't. Everybody does it differently. It takes time. You're not going to go from a 50-year decline to all of a sudden 7, 8, 9% economic growth and population growth overnight, but you're making the investments now that you can already see the results starting to happen. Stick with it and be persistent and bullish about your community. Just in closing, keep doing the great work that you're doing. Keep collaborating, because this motivates us. It gives us the tools we need to go back to Albany and tell people that may not be familiar with your community or your region, here's what's happening. Here are some of the really great things that are happening because of partnerships with the state, but also, and more importantly, what's happening with the local community, the business leaders, the local elected officials, who may not have as much familiarity with this part of the state. And it's a real thing that we have to be aware of. So it motivates us, it gives us a lot more effective tools to go back out and tell people in Albany and really, frankly, across the country, because we'll actually be traveling with Steve and several of our friends to the Site Selectors Guild in Atlanta, that New York is open for business. Despite some of the projects that may not have come to fruition, New York State, and especially upstate New York, is open for business, and we can point to your successes. Keep doing the great work that you're doing, and just know that you have a friend, you have a voice, you have an open door to the New York State EDC. We want to hear from you. We want to learn from you. We want to take your message back to Albany to make sure that economic development policies will continue to allow communities to thrive and to grow. So thank you once again for having me, and best of luck with the continued work that you're doing here in Genesee County. Thank you, Steve.